It's funny you mentioned Ted Cruz because you sent this tweet to me of him blaming the Green New Deal for electricity costs in Texas. I mean, given the grid failure that we saw, when was that? I mean, was that 6 months ago? God, time blends together.
20.
It was in 2020?
Wait, no, sorry. It was 2021. Sorry. I'm losing my mind, too.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it was last year. Just making sure that, my mind isn't completely gone already. What has the update been on the? Has there been any changes to the grid in Texas? Because this is going to happen again.
So right now it's, near 100 degrees, and it looks like it's probably going to be 100 degrees every day in June. ERCOT, which, governs the system here, has said that, we're in a crisis situation, and we might have record-breaking demand for electricity throughout the weekend, right? Which means for people, the threat of blackouts. And, in the same way that it's really dangerous when it's cold, when you run out of, the ability to control the temperature in your own home. It's very dangerous when it's like this. Nothing. And I wanted to bring up that Cruz thing because he's trying to blame Biden,
for the Green New Deal that hasn't happened.
Which is so ridiculous. And Texas has expanded its wind and solar, which is certainly helpful. Of course, they try to blame that after the winter storm when, again, it was natural gas pipelines that froze over. And I just want to make this point as a socialist, somebody who wants to see a different kind of system here. Why do these providers fail to weatherize their systems? It's because they make a decision that is much more profitable for them to just keep everything online. And if, they lose out on revenue for a couple of days, so be it. If they end up being one of the winners who doesn't lose out when the power is going out from other providers, they get to make a lot of money. And the crisis in Texas is caused by this decentralized, over-marketized system where it's a constant auction house on electricity, so prices can shoot up dramatically in a matter of minutes. And not only have they not done very much to deal with this, they pass some kind of weatherize your stuff, but we have no enforcement mechanisms, so just like a nice little letter from the government here. And by the way, all these people donate millions of dollars to Greg Abbott, and they did immediately after he basically slowballed any kind of response to this. But this is not the only crisis, but just shows how ridiculous it is here. After all this has been happening, guess who comes to town? All these Bitcoin boys and little freaks to try to take advantage of weak and underfunded city governments to try to create contracts with city governments and providers to get a set rate for electricity, right? So that they can constantly mine Bitcoins. And people are like, well, this is great. They're using this, their arguments like, oh, we're using up unused power and then we'll encourage more investment in capacity. Well, one, that's not what's happening. And two, what ends up happening is in a moment like this, right, where we're actually saying, everybody, we need to conserve energy. Prices are going to be going up. They're sitting there, right, paying those same prices while taking on a huge amount of power to mine Bitcoins, right? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And Greg Abbott not only is approving this, he's taking pictures with them and saying, look, Texas is running at the speed of business, right? I mean, just absolutely irresponsible at this moment. And we need to, be building up a much stronger movement on this. And I think that power itself is something not just in Texas, but for the left in general, is something that I think is a very viable way to fight for the things that we care about. One, dealing with climate change, but two, creating good union jobs, making sure that people have access, to being able to afford electricity in their homes, right? There's a lot of fights that can be happening. And I think, at least in Texas, this is a huge political opportunity for people to show that, look, they don't care about you at all. Not only will they not make it better, they're actually willing to make it worse for no real benefit to themselves.
Or for crypto. I mean, the fact that they're able to negotiate some sort of fixed rate for themselves in order to mine. I mean, did that actually happen or whatever? The fact that they feel like they can negotiate some sort of fixed price for themselves for this incredibly electricity intensive, massive project. I mean, people don't. Bitcoin is when they advertise it as this democratizing force. It's incredibly environmentally wasteful, and part of why these disaster capitalist Bitcoin bros go to countries in South America to exploit them is because they can work around and still use all of their energy in a predatory manner. But that shows that price fixing is possible if Abbott was interested in it, but he's only interested in providing it for capitalists that are going to bring business to
Totally.
Texas.
And like you have to understand, like our grid is like the most privatized grid. So you actually have, providers competing against each other. So it's a constant auction house. And that means that prices can just, skyrocket exponentially. So whenever you hear Ted Cruz going on about the windmills and the solar rigs, it's like, no, friend, it is 100% an over marketized system. Not any of these kind of, new technologies. But yeah, I mean, it's a joke. And like beyond that, like in the same vein as what you're talking about, like in El Salvador with Bitcoin, right? They do that internally here with, cities that are struggling. So like Denton, Texas had, a bunch of shadowy, crypto guys show up and say, we'll pay off the city's debts if you let us set up shop here and eat into your electricity market, right? So certainly a bad decision by the government there, but it's a decision that comes out of like the crisis that so many, cities and towns across this country are facing, where it's like they don't have the revenue to basically provide services or to pay, to take care of their debts. And these are the guys who are going to come in moments like that and take advantage of entire communities with very, very serious consequences.